What is up, Wizards fans? Welcome to the Department of Hoops pregame show for the Wizards' November 11th game, 8 p.m. tip in Houston, playing the Rockets. Before we get into it, we're brought to you by Stateside Vodka and their Surfside Hard Iced Teas and BetOnline. BetOnline is the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for online betting. From the earliest odds to in-game live betting, BetOnline provides you with all the action and the ability to watch the games as they happen. With the largest selection of odds on everything from football, NBA, NHL to entertainment and political props, head to BetOnline today to get in on the action with America's most trusted site for online wagering. BetOnline, the game starts here. Jim, Wizards coming off a few big losses here, looking to rebound in Houston. What are you sort of looking forward to seeing there?
Yeah, I think, on the whole, the season has been encouraging because of how the young players have looked, but certainly this team has a long way to go to be a competitive basketball team. And the Rockets are a good team. They're top 10 in both offensive rating and defensive rating in the NBA. So uphill battle tonight for the Wizards. And I think it starts on the glass tonight for the Wizards. They are the worst rebounding team in the league. We are 30th in defensive rebound percentage, and the Rockets are third in offensive rebound percentage in the league. So they crash the glass, and we have really struggled to secure rebounds. And if they just get a lot of extra possessions on us, it's going to be tough to overcome that. So to me, that's where this game starts. If the Wizards want to have any chance against a superior team, they got to keep the Rockets off the glass tonight.
Yeah, and we've seen some movement in the starting lineups over the last few games. Likely, like a reason being to try and get a little bit better on the boards. Like we saw Valanciunas get a start in there alongside Alex Sarr. Today, probably some more changes in the starting lineup with Kyle Kuzma returning. How do you think that changes things for the Wizards?
Well, I think Kuzma will help. He can rebound, which is a good thing. I mean, he's a big body, and when he puts his mind to it, he can be a good rebounder for us. So that could help. I'm more interested to see how Kuzma comes back on the offensive end of the floor, because since he's been out, Bilal Coulibaly has really taken off. And I'm kind of interested to see how he integrates himself back into the lineup now that a lot of the offense is running through Bilal. Because I think that's been he's been the Wizards' best player, frankly, even when Kuzma was healthy. So I would like to see Bilal continue to handle the ball more. But Kuzma obviously is going to get his shots up, so we'll see.
Yeah, and another guy who probably got some extra shots with Kuzma out was Keyshawn George, who had some rough spots as well as impressed at times. What did you sort of see from him in this stretch, especially when he was playing more of a featured role than maybe at the very start of the season?
Yeah, I've been really impressed with Keyshawn George. I mean, my biggest concern coming out of college with Keyshawn was the defensive end of the floor, and he's looked really good on that end of the floor. So offensively, I think Kuzma coming back, if anything, might help Keyshawn George actually, because he really is a guy that just kind of feeds off of the other players who are creating for Keyshawn. He's not necessarily someone you're just going to put the ball in his hands and let him go create a shot for himself at this point in his career. So having Kuzma back who can, create advantages and draw the defense in, I think Keyshawn actually might benefit from having another shot creator beside him. And we've seen Keyshawn just get up threes, which I love. I've been begging Corey Kispert to just shoot more threes for 3 years now. And Keyshawn's just come in and he is firing them up, and he's really tall and he's got a high release and he's got a quick release, and it's tough to get out there. So I think he might actually benefit from having another guy who can create some offense back out there. So.
Yeah, and then continuing on the rookie trend, Bub Carrington, currently questionable game time decision. On the Rockets side, they're also dealing with some guard injuries with Fred VanVleet out. Looking at the perimeter, the backcourts, what do you sort of see in this matchup?
Yeah, I think this is going to be a good test for Bub, because the Rockets are, frankly, one of the best perimeter defensive teams in the league. Şengün's not really offering a lot of rim protection. So the fact that they're a good defensive team is because they just have a slew of guys on the perimeter that can really bother people. And they're also Fred VanVleet, Dylan Brooks. These guys are really physical veteran defenders. And we've seen Bub struggle a little bit with the physicality. I mean, he's 19 years old, so that's to be expected. But I think tonight it's going to be a good test for him to see, if he plays, how he handles the Rockets' physicality mainly on the perimeter. Because I think, if you look back, I know it was his first game, but the Celtics game where they have Derek White and Drew Holiday, two just really physical veteran guys. Like we saw him kind of get into Bub and he struggled a little bit. So I'll be looking for that tonight just to see how he handles their physicality. So.
And you mentioned Şengün there. Obviously, not the best rim protector, as you mentioned, but offensively, even though this year's been somewhat of a down year for him compared to last year, still, like, we know, a very skilled, talented big. Um, with Sar potentially matching up against him, what are you sort of hoping to see on that end? Obviously, he's had a stellar rookie season protecting the paint.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's going to be interesting to see how Brian Keefe wants to employ Sar's defensive abilities in this game, because last game we saw him switch a lot of ball screens and he was getting out on the perimeter, guarding Franz Wagner, and for the most part, like, did a really good job. I think in the second quarter alone, he forced him to like 1 of 5 from the field when he was guarding him. But with Şengün, like, he's a guy who can really post mismatches. I mean, he can post up anyone, but if you're going to switch, like, let's just say Keyshawn George onto Şengün, like, the Rockets are they're just going to give it to him in the post and he's going to go to work. So I'm interested to see if they switch ball screens with Sar tonight, or if he kind of plays more of a traditional drop coverage. And then, Sar definitely needs to bulk up. And I think, he'll probably struggle a little bit tonight because Şengün is really physical and he'll be able, one-on-one in the post, to just kind of get his way with Sar. So maybe Sar can use his length around the rim to kind of affect some of these shots. But I'm interested to see if we double Şengün. He's such a good passer. You don't really want to double him. It's kind of like a little bit of the Jokic dilemma where, he's such a good scorer, but he's also a really good passer. And I don't know if you want to double team off of him. The Rockets do have a couple guys who are not great shooters from the perimeter, like specifically Amen Thompson. And he's a good cutter to the rim. So you still have to like account for that. But if he's in the game with Şengün, like, I would like to see them double Şengün off of Amen Thompson's man anytime he gets a post touch. Because unless it's Valanciunas, like, I feel like Şengün's going to have an advantage in the post on pretty much anyone we have. So,
yeah, that's a good point. And like you mentioned, the Jokic aspect, obviously he's not Jokic, but in terms of playing style, just in terms of a big who can, bully a little bit down low, but also pass it and step out a little bit, like, there's comparisons there. We've sort of talked about all three rookies at this point. I think that's been a consistent theme of the season, just sort of letting the young guys rock a little bit. Between those three, which would you say has impressed you or surprised you the most compared to what your preseason expectations were?
Yeah, I think Keyshawn George would probably be my answer, like I said earlier, because of the defensive concerns I had with him. And I just think he looks a little bit more athletic than he did at Miami. So I think there might be a little bit more there in terms of his ability to play with the ball in his hands. So I would say Keyshawn has impressed me the most, but I think all these guys have impressed me in their own ways. Like, they all still have flaws that they need to improve on, but they also all have like very clear positives to build from. Like, Bub still struggles, breaking down his guy and getting to the paint and getting to the rim, but like, he's flirting with triple doubles as a 19-year-old. I just, like, he does so many things well. And he definitely needs to get stronger and get to the rim more. He has some weaknesses, but he's really impressed me a lot. And Sar's defense has been as advertised. Like, he's been so impressive. He's shooting like 35% from the field as a big man. Like, it's rough right now, the offense, and, the finishing inside needs a lot of work. But I'm encouraged by what I've seen, just because at least he's already like elite on one end of the floor. And I do think he will shoot it eventually. So I think all these guys have shown different things, but compared to where my preseason expectations were, like, Keyshawn has blown me away. I mean, he's been fantastic. So,
yeah, and I think that'd probably be where most fans are at this point, especially because the other two, like, maybe higher expectations entering the year. Into tonight specifically, if you had to single out an X factor for the Wizards to come out with the win, what would you point to?
Yeah, limiting turnovers to me would be a big key tonight. I mean, they are really physical and aggressive defensively, and they're like so athletic between, Tari Eason and Amen Thompson and Jalen Green. Like, if they get out in transition, they are really, really dangerous. So to me, like, limiting turnovers is going to be huge because you can't give up a lot of rebounds. and turn the ball over a lot, you're just going to lose the possession battle and not get up enough shots to win the game. And I think we'll probably struggle a bit on the glass tonight. So yeah, to me, limiting turnovers would be the key. Like we have to at least get a shot attempt up at the rim each time down the floor. So
Yeah, it's always a safe bet to go with
yeah.
turnovers, especially with a young team. Like it makes sense that they're going to struggle with it, and it could be something by the end of the year. Maybe it is still an issue. Maybe it's slightly improved. Um, in terms of like, I know we were just talking about the rookies having their flaws. In terms of the player development, it's, I think, encouraging to see what kind of jump Bilal has taken this year in terms of like, hey, he had flaws last year and he looks much more well-rounded.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so, hopefully that's something that improves throughout the year.
Yeah.
Who
I mean, I
knows?
think, if you look at like Sar and Bilal, to me, they're on pretty similar development paths because as rookies, the complaints were kind of similar. Like Bilal really struggled offensively some nights, but you could see like there were kind of a baseline of offensive skills there to work with, and the defense was like elite from day one. So they're kind of having like similar rookie seasons to me. So I'm not concerned about Sar long term, even if he's struggling a little bit, because obviously Bilal has just been fantastic this year. Like that's the biggest storyline of the season to me. He looks so good. So
Yeah. And I'm with you in terms of not being overly concerned about that. Because it's rare to have someone be so elite on one side of the ball on day one, and that's what it feels like he's been, which has got to be encouraging. Um,
yeah.
I know we've talked about a lot of different matchups for tonight's game. If you had to single one out, which one are you going to be looking at most for tonight?
Yeah, I'm interested to see kind of I would assume they're gonna play Dylan Brooks on Bilal. I mean that Kuzma being back kind of complicates things because I don't know, they might match him up on Kuzma, but considering like Brooks usually guards the other team's best players and Bilal has been by far our best player so far this season. So I mean Bilal's gonna have his hands full. Dylan Brooks is kind of an antagonist, and he's very aggressive and physical. And so I'm kind of excited to see how Bilal handles that matchup. I mean, he's been tremendous. The Magic have a lot of really tough perimeter defenders as well, and he, kind of got wherever he wanted to on the floor. So I think he's going to be fine. I think he'll handle it well, but it will be fun to just watch that. And just we're talking about Bilal. I was like blown away with his passing against the Magic. Like I thought that was the best passing game of his career. He made a couple really nice dump offs and then had like a left-handed wraparound kick out, I think, to Keyshawn George for 3. I think he finished with like 6 assists, and it was just really impressive. So hopefully he can continue to kind of balance because he is a great finisher at the rim. Hopefully he can kind of continue to find that balance of when to just go up strong and when to, make the right read and find the open man. So
For sure. And I think any time the Rockets are playing, the Dylan Brooks matchup will be at least entertaining to watch, given who Dylan Brooks is. I'll also be, I know we've talked about it a bunch now, but the Sar Şengün matchup should be fun as well. At least with the Wizards defensively. Offensively, I have no idea what to expect with that. But yeah, then in terms of predictions, what are you expecting to see tonight?
Yeah, I mean, I think the Wizards so far this year have actually been more competitive than I thought they would be on the whole. Like I had very low expectations for this team, and they've already won a couple games and been pretty competitive in some others. So I think they'll at least keep it close. I mean, I think Brian Keefe has done a great job. He has these guys playing really hard, and like they make a lot of mistakes. We're playing basically like 3 teenagers in the starting lineup, so that's to be expected. But I mean, they've been playing hard. I think they'll at least keep it close. I'm interested because it's a second night of a back to back. I don't think we've had one yet this season, so I'm interested to see kind of how the guys come out. This will be their first back to back as pros for the rookies and kind of their energy tonight. But like I said, I think Brian Keefe's done a good job of keeping these guys engaged and coming out with energy. So I think they'll at least keep it close for a half. But Houston's a good team. I think they'll probably get us tonight. But
Yeah, and it seems like keeping it close has been a goal throughout most of the season and probably will be throughout the rest of the year. It's both in terms of being realistic and then also just you don't need to be with where the Wizards are at, you don't need to be winning a bunch of games this year.
Yeah.
So last few games probably not as close as would have liked, but there's still, I think, even in all those games, reasons for optimism, especially on the individual players' levels. So it should be fun to see that. Before we get going, anything you want to shout out, plug, tell people where to follow you at, and all that good stuff?
Yeah, I got a podcast. It's called Wizards Weekly. You can find it. Just search it up on Spotify, Apple Music, wherever you listen to your podcasts. And go ahead and follow me on X at Wiz_weekly. I've been posting a lot of clips on there, some kind of film breakdown stuff that I see from the game. So go ahead and give me a follow on there. And yeah.
Awesome. Well, appreciate it, Jim. And hopefully we get a good competitive game tonight at 8 p.m.
Hopefully. Thanks for having me on.
All right. Catch you later.
See you guys.